but they actually tie in fairly well with a couple of things that's been occurring the last couple of days. So let me start with you guys. Is there anything that you want to cover? Well, we've got a few minutes on the front side of this that is just kind of open forum, the trade situations, what happened, anything you want to look at.
I did a trade in TF today.
Should we look at it?
Yeah.
Carl, keep that. You were going to say something, so keep that back in your mind, and we're going to come and catch you in just a minute. All right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's go get TF up here, and let's see what we get.
Painful for me to look at because.
Let's show a screen. All right. Let's go look at it. A 2-minute okay. What do you want, Dave?
Okay, so I got in on.
Let me do this. Let me give everybody control. Go ahead, Dave.
Is that my mouse going there? Okay.
Uh-huh.
I was watching the double bottom here.
Yeah.
And I didn't trust going in here. That's kind of something I probably would have tried earlier and got stopped out a lot. So I'm trying to, the last couple of weeks since we started this coaching, trying to be maybe a little bit more conservative.
Okay.
Anyway, I got in over this red bar right here.
All right.
Which I think on the 5 minute, also there was sort of like 5 minute, 3 basing bars and a couple of tails in here, right?
Let me go get a 5. I'll just make a small 5 and we can look at it together. And then it's all here. So
yeah, so you can see it there. So
there you go. There's your cursor back, sorry.
Yeah. Now I would not have taken that first 5 just because this double top here and it didn't have enough time. So I felt much better going over this red bar here. So
okay.
So I'm not unhappy about my entrance to the trade.
Right.
But I also thought, like, one of the other things I'm working on is maybe trying to hold a little bit more. So I actually didn't take anything at the high a day here.
Okay.
And I held through this right here, felt proud of myself. Here we go, we're going up again. Then I didn't want to break out failure, like just over the top of the day, so I got out under this bar.
Excellent.
Well, okay.
Well, now when you talk about, and I don't want to jump ahead of you, but
I'm okay. So I'm looking now. I'll finish my train of thought now. So
yes.
On one hand, okay, but then I think, okay, well, I'm not in over this bar, and my stop was under here, so it's barely an R, right? When I look at it, this wasn't much of a pullback here, and you got probably support from this area here where you broke out at, right? And I don't think it ever broke 84. So I'm thinking I really should have had some of this still, is what I'm thinking. So.
Dave, that was the only comment I was going to say, and that is, and we're going to go look at another trade. And if we go back to, our whole retracement ideas and the thoughts, one of the things that we recognize is that, let me just slide this up a little, there we go, is that this is where we should find some support. With the gap itself up, guys, and we haven't talked about gaps much, and we'll talk a little bit about them, and then at a later date I think we'll go into a little more detail. But on these gaps, one of the things that's really good to watch is, and your overnights can get, your 24-hour charts can get a little bit you have to watch them, but can get to be a little bit too confusing. This is relatively good support, and the fact that we gapped initially right up at it, above this pivot, is strong indication to begin with. And then watch the retracement. And the retracement was very shallow, held this upper level of support, didn't end up having to come down here to hold it. So the retracement level was very, very bullish. So having this double bottom, Dave, I think you read it really well. And Some of us may have taken it on that 2 minute. Taking it over the 5 is still okay, because, judging from this 5, you end up coming in right here, which is not a bad entry at all. To give you a little, as you say, it'd be a little bit more conservative. That's not a bad entry. There's nothing wrong with that entry. But as you say, and this is a good lesson, Dave, and I think, as we all sit here and think about this, this is one of the, and we're going to go see a couple other setups here, where it's just the opposite. They're short setups. But this is where we expect buyers to show up. And even though it puts you at a break even, that's the decision you have to make. And truthfully, I think you were smart to take something out of it here, because that's not a good bar, as you described. You don't want a breakout failure once you break out. You hope that you get this thing moving up a little quicker. So to cover and be protective here, this is where, in my style, I would have taken part of the trade and left a little more on and seen just what happened. Because even if you had to take, if this got to be retracing too much, the profits up here would cover any losses down here. So you should be able to get out of this typically without any real damage, even if it turns ugly on you. So to be totally defensive, it wouldn't cost much to let the part of this trade set, whether it be a half or whether it be a third or whatever it is you're comfortable with. But really, in order to get these longer moves, we have to be able to sit through some retracement. They're always going to come. And in order to, it's just not all the trades, unfortunately, that we get into that just explode in our direction, and there's never any significant retracement in them. So this is one that, I think you read it real well. And it's okay to pull it off, take it, walk away, be happy, because you executed really well, Dave. And the only other part is does my trading plan, I think that's a better situation. Does my trading plan allow for me to sit through these pullbacks, or do I want to scalp these and look for the next entry and then get the next one? And that's all up to you guys, how you want to trade them. But I like the way you read it. I like the way you executed it. So that's the only comment.
Okay, thanks.
Carol?
No. Let me hear you first. What you got to say? I'll ask at the end of the session, if you don't mind.
Okay, I don't mind. Let's go look at. Were there any questions on calls in the room or any situations that we want to cover? I wasn't in the room today. I have no idea what went on in there, if anything. So, not at all aware of anything that's happening in there.
Let me ask you on that play.
Okay, Jose.
I'm sorry. The play that was just made.
Okay.
Waiting for that red bar to be reversed. What pattern is that?
Well, what you have is all you have is a 180 reversal in a bullish market. It isn't. There really is a pattern per se, other than what you're watching is you're watching prices base. And if we're looking at this 2 minute, now let me back up and look at the 5 minute. If I'm looking at the 5 minute, guys, down here at the bottom, I'm feeling pretty confident about the upward direction of the 5 minute charts, because I have, even though I've got this double top up here, I'm basing very bullishly, and I'm seeing bottoming tails all the way through here on 4 bars. So the picture on the 5, it always looks slightly different than they do on the 2. But inside the 5, this is what we're seeing. And I'd like, guys, in a bullish pattern, in a bullish consolidation, I like to see red bars being ignored. I like to see bars like this being ignored. That's a kind of an ugly bottoming tail. You look at that. Or that's an ugly topping tail. The bar closes on its low. If we're just looking at that bar alone, it has a fairly negative message. And in order for us to turn that around right away, and even though what we see is red bar, green bar, red bar, the 5 minute gives us a little longer picture where we take a little bit of this noise away. And the 5 minute saying, by and large, they're holding this bottom of this quite well. We've got good bottoming tails here. So when we get these bottoming tail bars, one of the things that this is something the facts that you require, facts that you like to see, that I like to see as well. And that is typically, guys, when you get this consolidation going like this, and then you get a baby bar. Okay, now this is something that we used to talk about a great deal in the ETR when I was moderating and I was in there more often. That when the baby bars occur after we've been consolidating for a period of time, get ready, because typically these baby bars are that little pause bar that ignites the next move. Now, why that is, I can't tell you. I really, guys, you're going to find that I'm a pretty simple-minded guy, and I can't tell you what's going on in this battle. But I know that frequently, I'll use that word because that's accurate, frequently, as we get to the end of these consolidations, we'll see a baby bar that once we break that baby bar, prices will start to move fairly quickly. And this little pause, for some reason, sometimes we get them on a 5, but we always will get them on a 2. And they need to be neutral to positive bars. Sometimes they're even a little negative bar, but if it's a little baby bar, then once we break that high, it's usually then we start to move. This isn't an uncommon event. And so there really isn't, Jose, there really isn't a pattern per se, other than like we're looking for in many of our setups, other than the battle going on is just slowly building its own support. And yeah, go ahead.
That was my point. And obviously, it was Dave who did the trade, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if he mentions that it was the 5. I mean, I could see it on the 5, but when I look at it at the 2, and I don't know what the 1 would show.
Let's go look at a 1. Right here. This is what the 1 shows right there. That's the pattern in the 1.
So because that stabilization bar would be the one that I would use to get in.
The 2 and the 1?
On the 2?
Yeah.
That one right there, over that one would be what I would look to get in because of how you explained it. Getting over and taking it when it went up already 2 bars on the 3rd bar, I would think that there may be not late, but if you entries on the 2, and actually Dave could tell, was your entry on the 5 or the 2, Dave?
I was actually looking on the 2, but over that bar, but over the red bar. And then they kind of, at that point, it kind of complemented the 5.
Okay.
But it actually gave a poorer entry than the first 5-minute bar, I think, if I remember, just by a tick or 2. But then it had more time, right? It had based longer, and I felt more comfortable about the direction it was going to go.
So, although you were looking at the 2, the 5 was actually your entry.
I don't know if the actual trigger would have been identical, but whatever over that 2-minute red bar.
Essentially
the entry. It would have been within a tick or 2, probably.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the entry here though. That was back in here somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, the entry on the 5. See, we look at the top of this bar, and the exact number on the bar is 8370. This bar is also 8370. So it becomes the same entry on the 5.
Okay.
And that's okay, guys. It really is. If your 2 is telling you what you want to see, and the 5 is complementary, then you got what you want. That's the best scenario. Is when your 5 will be complementary to your 2.
Actually, now that I think about it, Dave, really what you were looking for is to break the 5-minute bar. Your entry was on the 5-minute. I mean, you could be looking at the 2-minute chart, but if what you were looking for is to trade over those red bars, it would be on the 5 minute.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, whether you're looking at the 2 or whether you're looking at the 5, they both actually line up well for you. So it becomes essentially the same entry as if you waited for a 5.
Good job.
Yeah, it's a good job. Good job. Paul?
Yeah.
Did you have anything? Did you have anything you wanted to hit in this little session?
You know, the only thing on the top of my mind right now is I've passed a couple entries that are right during the doldrums or the Eastern lunch hour.
Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. I think one Friday or something, or maybe
Okay.
last Tuesday. And
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe just touch a little bit on what your thought process is going into that. And part of it is I stopped watching the markets nearly as close, and I'll go back and do some back testing and research during that time.
Yeah. Well, my thought is, and I've shared with this in the past, and without a specific situation, let me tell you what I do generally. And I didn't trade at all yesterday. I had a lot of other stuff that I was watching, and I haven't traded yet today. I'm trying to get some of my year-end stuff done, and I'm looking at these markets and seeing the range that I'm getting, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm not going to spend a half a day looking at a chart that's traveling 20 ticks. It just isn't going to happen. And so, for me, I don't need the trade, and I've got other things that I need to do, and so I'm thinking this is one of those days that I feel pretty good about not getting my foot into the middle of, because there's just so little opportunity here right now. So I haven't traded today, and I didn't trade yesterday, and this is normal for me this time of year. I don't like to trade this time of year. Last week I had a really good week and had some good trades. This week, not so much. I really haven't tried to trade at all, really, and I watched a bunch of stuff, missed a couple of really good, missed a great oil trade. If we get time, I'll go show it to you. And we even talked about it. We were talking about it in our little chat room, and I let it go, and I should have kicked myself. But regardless, back to the point, come to the doldrums. My opinion is, and what I found to be mostly true, is if there is a good move prior to lunch, there's likely not to be much of a really good move during lunch. However, if the markets are sloppy without much follow through really one way or the other, then there's oftentimes a good move, a decent move that's worth hanging around. Hanging around and watching, and then I'll watch for the lunchtime move during those periods. But if there's already been a good move, then I'm going to be less likely to do anything during the lunch, and that's just what I find. So between now and the end of the year, guys, I will be really careful, and these little scalps I don't mind trying to take, but I won't be aggressive, and I won't be taking really large lots on anything with this time of year. That's Paul. That's how I feel about the lunchtime. Now, and this is probably the area that you missed the breakdown and all right in here during lunch yesterday. And this yesterday, other than, again, we talk about this, and we talk about it, and we're going to continue to talk about it, because what it helps us do is it helps us get a bias, all right, that doesn't get confused with what we're seeing going on in these smaller time frames. So, as we look at the bottom here, and oh my gosh, guys, I gotta take this phone call. 1 second.
listen, I'm talking like this, assuming you're gonna come with me, if I'll make money. Also, I can get a job in a reasonable dollars, just cover expenses plus insurance. I cannot take the shit. This is not cheap. That's what I'm talking about. I wanna go to Colombia. I cannot take one hour course.
Forgive me, guys. Okay, I'm back. So, what happens is that by drawing these lines and either mentally or physically drawing these lines, when we see this stuff going on over here, it can get a little confusing if we're not looking to the left and watching our retracements. And we're going to talk, and this is what we're going to spend some time on today, is watching our retracements and looking at our support and resistance. Because I know, guys, trust me, this is the one area that gets traders in trouble the most. And this is a simple exercise that I'm going to encourage you guys to do through the day. Is when you take out some resistance, you take out some support, just draw a line on it, physically draw a line on there, and just train yourself to watch this thing, and pretty quickly it'll become automatic. But as we get into this stuff, and we start into the lunch hour, but remember, now, guys, if you haven't written this down, please write this down, that in an uptrend, our two favorite setups, our most high odds trade two trades that we can take is either a breakdown failure or a double bottom. And in that double bottom, what we're simply looking for is tick divergence. Now, we don't have to have it, but it lends itself to improving our odds and increasing our confidence. So, we look at this, and then we measure retracements. And here's our base of support. And in a good market, guys, this is the one thing this is one thing you have to kind of measure. And that is, in a strong market, prices don't come back to support. In a weak market, prices don't necessarily go back to resistance. Now, it's easier for us if they do, because those are identifiable areas. But it doesn't always happen. So this double bottom, guys, is tradable if we look at it in the sense of, let me just kind of blow it up, of the concept of retracements. And now we have a bullish consolidation, even though we're going through lunch. You can see this pretty clearly. There's our two bottoms. And the best part is we are getting the other part of the criteria that we want, is we're getting us a little tick divergence. That lower tick, now it's not huge. We were down to negative 500. This one's negative 300. That's not a bad number in a tick divergence. So it has all the components of what we're looking for. We're in an uptrend. We're sitting actually above support for this double bottom to occur, which is a strong indicator, a very good indicator. And then when that double bottom occurs, there's our little pause bar, doji bar, and where you take this thing, a 5 minute, a 2 minute, either one of those would have been a fair place to get on. So then these are the things we're looking for in an uptrend: double bottoms, breakdown failures, and they're even more potent at support and more potent with tick divergences. So that's the concept. And then we simply continue to do the same thing. And I know you guys have seen, we talked about that before. We do the same thing. And again, we're looking at now, guys, you remember our bullish consolidation? One of the things that we find, if this is going to be bullish consolidation, once you get your big move expansion bar, and then it starts to slow down with this consolidation, this is the area you go back and look on most all of your really truly bullish consolidations. We don't break this. We don't come all the way down to our upper level of support. We typically hold the bottom of our base. That's what we want to see. Or even a breakdown failure through that base, pop right back in. Both of those are ideal. But to hold this base is great, and again, a failure through the base is great. because that's what caught the guys short. And we always love it. We always love it when we can catch traders on the wrong side. So this consolidation is really bullish because we don't break this first little level of congestion. And then we're looking for double bottoms, red bars ignores, something to buy into. Now, as a general rule, I will not buy up here as it breaks out. Okay, almost a definite rule. I'm trying to buy somewhere in here at another pivot area or a reversal bar or something like that. Now, because volume was so poor yesterday on all the contracts, these bars formed rather poorly, in my opinion. In other words, they just didn't give us much of a heads up. So, just looking at these bars, it was a little bit tougher to get on this one because we didn't see a real trigger bar like we kind of look for. And that was, a problem with yesterday at lunch. Let me go get this. Here we go. That's a 24-hour, so let's go get it. I'll go get it. But there it is. There it is. So we're right over here. This is our consolidation on the 5-minute. Again, this was a little tougher to get on because it didn't give us the great signals. But the point is that these lines tend to help us keep some bias as to what we're doing and what's going on. Now, any questions? Because we're going to get into layer 2 and layer 3 and layer 4 of this whole concept right here.
What percentage of your trades do you think are those double bottoms or breakdown failures?
Oh, 75.
Really that high?
No joke.
Yeah.
Of a failure of some kind, 90% are. Maybe it's not quite 75, but it's certainly the majority. It's more than it's 60 or 70 or something in that neighborhood. Those are the ones that I like. And those are the ones that particularly, now with the E-minis, guys, we're going to spend some time talking about oil and euro and a couple of other contracts later on in our sessions. I use some different strategies. But when we're talking about E-minis, I'm really, these days, with the way these markets are acting and while I'm really making these markets come and do what I want them to do before I want to trade them. So remember the concept where I say, what has to happen before I want to trade this? You guys wrote that down, correct?
Yeah.
Everybody's got it. That's what I still ask myself is, what do I want to see happen before I want to enter a trade? And if I don't get it, I'm not doing it, particularly with the 8 minis. But as we go through this now, let me bring with you or come to you, and I'm going to talk about a trade that was called that had a chance of working, guys, but it wasn't a good chance. And this has to do with retracement, and it has to do with ticks. Now, this is the NQs, and as you know, again, if we go back and say, okay, here's the base that we broke, and what's going on, okay, and I'm not bringing this trade to your attention to be critical. I'm bringing this trade to your attention because it is a good learning experience, okay. And let me explain what I have found over the years, and I've seen this trade taken numerous times, and it fails the vast majority of the time. That is two things I want to point out, and the first one being this tick extreme. And this thing hit negative 1300. Okay. Now, let me explain how I read these and what I find to be very, very accurate. Look at in fact, because we've got the opening volume, which is fine. But other than the opening volume, this was the highest volume in this whole series. And so I don't really count that as serious consideration for volume. That's going to happen every morning and every end of day, no matter what. But this does mean something to me relative to the rest of the bars. Now, even though it was light by virtue of number, in relation to the day, it was significant volume. And that's really all I'm trying to point out. But the important part is we had the extended move down into support. And what happens the first time we come into support? There's a reaction, right? Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's a concept I want you to just be 100% automatic. You just know that's going to happen when you come into some major support like this. We're going to have a reaction to it. That's not necessarily a reason to get worried. I mean, reason to be cognizant of it, but it doesn't mean we change our how we trade things. Now we're just looking for retracements. Here's the part that I think went poorly. And because of the way this whole thing comes together is, guys, this trade is tradable up in the top, and particularly that bar. Okay? That's a shock bar. You guys recognize it. It's a nice little retest up here, and that bar is tradable. This bar, to me, is tradable. Is shortable. Okay? Either one of those. This one is not. I don't like this first topping tail, or excuse me, this first break of a 2-minute low. I prefer this retest. You guys know I kind of beat on this second entry theory and discussion quite a bit. This shock bar, guys, is ideal for an entry. Okay? Plain and simple. Nothing wrong with this bar. I would take it most of the time. But having said that, I do not like this. The farther it gets closer, the farther it gets down. Now, this is only good for a scalp initially. Now, let me take you to the end. Let me take you to how this would look kind of in real time, if you will. There's our shock bar right there. Now, what worries me about this whole entire trade is, guys, and this is why it's really important to try to make your best entries. And if you don't get it, don't chase it. This is a perfect example. This came down, and could you have gotten out of this? I don't know. That's not. I won't even make where and how. But now that we're here, and what are we doing here? And this is where we find ourselves a lot, guys. Is we will miss good entries for whatever reason. We've stepped away from the computer, we were distracted, we were on a phone call, we were whatever. We're going to miss good entries. And this is the discipline that I want to share with you. It says at times we can try to jump back in, and at times we may want to stay away. We may simply want to stay away. And let me give you some comparables. Anytime you get a tick on the negative side that goes plus 1,200, and you get one that goes 1,300, write these numbers down. Minus 1,200 plus. I've seen them go as low as minus 1,500 on the negative side. When you get one that negative, it is over for a long time, quite a while, generally speaking. Now, this is a guideline that says I can scalp this because I have my trade, I have my entry right over here on the shock bar.
Post office.
The closer I get to this, guys, think about this. Is there any way we're not going to get a tick divergence when we approach this low again?
The odds are high for tick divergence.
Absolutely, they're high because we already got a negative 1350 on this last push. So it could go through. So all I'm telling you is, I'm not saying this is a trade you need to stay away from. But what I'm saying is, if you can't buy this thing or be short this thing up in this area of resistance, do not try to trade this closer to the lows. And let me show you why. Okay, that's your trigger. I mean, on 2-minute, you can actually get it here if you decide that's what you wanted to do. But look what ends up happening. In fact, I should flip this over because this trade was actually called, and it looks identical on the NQs. It was trade, and I'm only pointing this out because don't let yourselves get caught in this trade. This is a poor odds trade.
Neil, can I ask you something which is a little bit...
Please.
But not exactly what you're talking about, but you know what, on the TF, on the Russell, when this 1300 tick hits, I have here, I have the same e-signal like you. When it hits, especially at support, I almost always scalp it long, or at least for a point, you know. Over 1300 is like done deal, you know, at least a point or two going up, you know. Do you?
You're right, and you're right, and I will actually do the same thing on occasion. I completely agree with you. What I wait for is I wait for a little retest to do it. I don't take it off of this bar. As soon as that hits, if I can catch it on a 1 minute right here on this bar, on the first little pop, I'll try to catch it right there. And if I think I can catch it within 3 or 4 points, ticks off the low, I'll catch it there. Otherwise, I'm going to wait for a little 1 minute retest, and then I'm going to buy it. But you're right, I'm looking for 8 or 10 ticks, and I'm out.
Okay.
But it actually does work quite well when you get that thing. Here's the NQs. And, guys, this one is, let me do this. There we go. Because now we can see our support on the other side.
Sorry,
There we go.
I'm nervous. I'm very nervous.
What? Why aren't you giving me?
Okay. And this is coffee trial.
Why aren't you giving me? Well, to heck with it. We had support over here on the NQs. It come down to another area of support. They're saying that here's our tick. Now, the NQs didn't come quite as high. I mean, really, there's our congestion area where we start to get much of anything that's overlapping. You know, even up in here. But this is a little breakout failure. This is a tough one to trade. The NQs Russell had a better setup because we had a good shock bar. None of these bars, guys, actually end up becoming shock bars. Now remember, as we talk about a shock bar doesn't have to form in one complete bar. Maybe it takes two. But what I want it to do is I want it to take out the high of the previous and the low of the previous. And maybe it takes two actual bars to do that. That becomes our shock. We take out resistance here, we lose support here. This is what we want to see. And we never did have that occur here. What I find is the closer we get to this area, guys, when we get this kind of tick extreme, we get that kind of volume, we're going to hold this again. It takes this tick extreme, it takes a while to wear off. I usually won't trade against those for at least 30 or 45 minutes. Literally, I don't want to touch these until we get down here a good long time. Now, as I watch this, I know that in the room there was a short called right here. Okay, and to me, guys, this is too close. This is too close. There's no room here, and if you can get it up in the resistance area, that's fine. But to get it down here this low, the answer is no. I won't do it. This move was substantial, guys. It moved quite a ways in terms of range during that period of time. We went 10 NQ points, which is a pretty good NQ move, particularly with what we've got going on these days with this low volume and low range. That's a pretty good move. When you get these tick extremes like that, guys, you can watch them, and if you find a good high odds entry up near resistance, take your trade, and then watch that as you come into this, knowing that you're gonna have to take something off, and maybe hold a little bit see if you can get through, because at times you never know. Sometimes you can't. But the point is guys, unless you can do that at resistance, don't take these breakdowns. These things fail so much. And by going back and studying this was ideal long, even though you may not have wanted to think long. You've got a double bottom, you've got a tick divergence after a huge tick extreme. And this happens so much that shorting these down close like this is really a low odds play. Once in a while they'll work out for you, but the majority of the time not so. What you want to do is, if you're going to trade it up here. Don't trade it down near the support area. Just stay away from that trade. It is a relatively low odds trade as a general rule.
Can I ask a question, you?
Yes, please.
On the 5 minute, on on this chart, because I remember this from yesterday, it looked like a really good double bottom, but the problem was the 5 minute was quite large.
Let's go look at it. Oops. Should be getting close. Sorry, guys. Here we go. There it is. There it is.
So that red bar that failed,
Here?
yeah,
Uh-huh.
by the time it makes that tail and trades above it, it's
Big stop?
pretty big stop. So a couple questions. If back on the 2 minute, would you have traded over, when it did dip down, would you have traded over any of those 2 minute bars? And if not, how would you have worked your way into this one?
If I was thinking long, this is my trigger bar. And guys, I watched this thing kind of come together, and I really wasn't interested in taking it either way. And one of the reasons was, if I throw up a chart on YM, for example, let me do this.
You like it?
No, I cannot look at it now, but it's not supposed to be like
I'm
that.
going to get a third chart here in just a second. And let's talk about this, because this is when we're watching everything. Guys, and I hope I don't sound like a broken record, and I hope you guys don't think, oh man, leave it alone, all right, enough already. But I have to tell you that this happens so often that, there we go. This is the area. In fact, let me just kind of move that down so we can see it. This is the same area. This is the first tick extreme that you can see. And what was interesting is that the YM didn't have any juice to bounce, and in fact broke our tick extreme to a new low with a divergence. Okay? If you guys see this happen, alrighty, and you watch this sort of event happen, first off, I don't like shorting the strongest contract. I like shorting the weakest contract. And in this case, guys, if you see the Russell and you saw the NQs hold here, and you saw this sort of event, in fact, the ES broke not quite as much as the YM, but the ES did break this prior low as well. Look for a reversal. If these other contracts are going to hold a support, the ones that broke support, I would watch them, and I wouldn't have, in a case like this, I wouldn't have a problem necessarily taking one of these long as well. And the reason being is here we have more potential for momentum to get going because of all the traders that are trapped in this trade. Now, I know this gets a little confusing because I tell you I want to take the longest one or the strongest one long, right? I do. But at times, it's not a mistake to say, okay, who's going to get trapped, and who's going to have to bail, and where can I get the most momentum? Now you got to judge that with where's the void, and the NQs were still a very good choice to take. But as you watch this thing, if you get a double bottom in an NQ, and you get a breakdown failure or something like that in a YM or an ES at the same time, you've got this one on support, and you've got the ticks lining up the way they are. Take these double bottoms, take these breakdown failures, because guys, you can trail them. Now you and again, as the minute you're into a trade, what are you doing? You're automatically going into management mode. You're automatically going into, okay, where's my resistance? And you should have an idea where that is before you're there. But you're going to say, okay, now, as we get into our resistance areas, how is it acting? What's it doing? What do I need to do to adjust this trade? Because I'm going into the trade typically knowing that I'm taking something off of my first spot of resistance, but I'm going into the trade thinking I want to go to the high of the day. I mean, really, I know it's not going to happen. But I'm thinking, if I could get a part of this to go to the high of the day, or the high of the week, or even the high of the month, I'm great. I got to give it a chance to do that. And then the bars will tell me, yes, it'll do it, or no, it won't. And I'll adjust it accordingly. So, as I look at this thing, and we look at these different markets, we did break here. this often. This is a phenomenon that's happening because of this poor volume. But even if it was only to break by a small amount, 3 or 4 or 5 bars, concept is there. Watch these other stronger contracts. If they're able to hold support, guys, don't be afraid to jump on these double bottoms. Now, these double bottoms need to occur in about a 30 or 40 or hour period. I don't like double bottoms that occur in 10 minutes. So you get a 5-minute double bottom, another 5-minute bar. I don't find those as valid as one that takes 30 or 40 or 60 minutes to develop. The ones that take a little longer are far more potent and stronger as support than that quick little move down that happens in 10 or 15 minutes on a 5-minute bar. So I hope, the message I'm suggesting is I've gotten into the second layer of this, is where to get short, but watching these ticks and getting into extremes tells you we could be seeing a reversal change, and then we just go bar by bar and analyze it. Now, looking at this stuff over and over and over again, when you get these tick extremes, gives you the 2 different pictures that you're going to find. At times, we will be able to break and get through this. And more often than not, we probably won't for the time being. And then we get chances to take these things long. These are exhaustion marks. These are the footprints that price leaves when they get exhausted. These big range expansion down, big volume bar, tick extreme. Guys, if the trade's over, a curl for you to be taking it long down here is a smart idea on just a reflexive bounce. These things do, for scalps, guys, they really do work for quick little 8, 10, 12 tick bounces. They work pretty darn good. Study them, learn them, see how they act on those real short time frames. Go to your even 100 tick chart is fine to use on those events. But we're going to get a reaction, particularly when these things occur at support like they do. So, having said that, I wanted to kind of now stop me, guys. If I don't want to save that chart. If there's anything that I need to clarify or
could I ask
discuss,
one more quick
please.
question on this?
Absolutely, guys. I want you to ask these questions.
Would so my mouse right there is good. There was a little.
Let me give you the mouse back. I took it away. There you go.
Okay, right there. Would that have been too early for an entry? Like you want to see this little base here break first and then go up, like with this part
I
here?
I actually want to see in a situation like this. I want to see, guys, and I noticed a couple of you guys are just a little early on your entries. You're not quite waiting for the trend to change. I want this double bottom to form. I don't want it up here. This isn't a double bottom to me, guys. I'm not going to take it up here. This is too high. I want, if I'm thinking double bottom, and I'm going to be thinking double bottom here, because, again, guys, the 2 things that allow us to take a counter trend trade before we actually break and pivot, before we take out resistance, are climatic buy setups and double bottoms. We can take those without having taken out resistance. Until then, we don't want to take them. Now, there are some exceptions to that rule, but I'm giving you that rule because those are the high odds rules. Those are the ones that will get your batting average up to 75% if you wait for that event. Now, theoretically on the 5-minute, the best thing to do is after this bottoming tail occurs, wait for one more retest on the 5 and then get in. Now, you don't always get it. When you do get it, guys, you rarely get stopped. Rarely get stopped. It's a super high odds play is after your 5-minute double bottom, wait for one more retest in the form of a bottoming tail or a red bar ignored and get on it. That gives you the super high odds play. You can also do it on a 2-minute, waiting for a 2-minute to get a retest after this bottom. Or if you're aggressive, you can take it right on the double bottom. And if your ticks are in line, if your internals are in line, and that's the best part. If by chance your internals were stronger, and suggesting that this was weaker than price was was
think I'm already
actually
moved to
diverging to
Lincoln, so
internals. The
maybe
internals
not
were actually stronger than this. Then I don't have problems taking them right
If I
down
move
here.
there, you won't have to work.
Using
Because
this
I'll
2-minute
move
bar, your
only
ultimate
for
2-minute bar
what
bottom
I'm doing now.
as
Yesterday,
as
you don't
your
know what I
entry.
did.
And I'll just take a COG
I don't want to
or a
spend
PSS in this case. But essentially, this is the same thing. You break these little
there
2-bar,
to run.
and guys, this is, you'll find a lot of little breakdowns will come with just a 2-bar consolidation and a breakdown. And this still classifies as a little breakdown failure. It's very subtle, but it'll still accomplish what we're looking for. So learn these, watch these, paper trade them, study them, go back and look at how they form, and then develop your strategy. Now, whether that be waiting for a retest, I don't very often just take this bar. On the 2-minute, I usually always want to see a little retest on the 2. On occasionally, I'll want to see it on a 5. It just depends on how this stuff formed over here and how high it bounced. I actually like to see this bounce a little bit more and give me a real W bottom rather than just a dead consolidation down here. Because the higher this will bounce, it gives me a little bit more confidence that I've got some strength and some buyers willing to push this thing up. So when we get this retest, then I'm more confident that I'm going to get a better response if I've got a little bit better W in the middle here. Because at this point, we're seeing very little evidence of much buying. That makes sense?
Yep.
Somebody say yes.
Yes.
Somebody say no.
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting used to you guys. You guys are just too quiet. All right. So let's go over and look at a couple of trades that happened yesterday that I thought were really both excellent trades. These are charts that came to me. And let me go find out. Let me go kill this. Let's go get the Russell.
Oil at this time of the day yesterday was beautiful.
Yes, it was. It was tearing.
Yeah.
It was tearing. There was a 150-point trade that I didn't get because I was an idiot.
I took 90. It was so
Nice job.
nice. But there were like 3 or 4 perfect entries, like maybe 95% good entries, like beautiful.
I would agree. Okay. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Dave and Paul, can I use your trades from yesterday?
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to use them, guys, because let me go get them up. All right.
So cute now, all the way we talk and stuff online.
Oh, this-
You can hear this?
No,
How?
you mute yourself.
Okay.
Ah.
This is the trade, and this is a 2-minute.
3 days ago, I split my computer.
And this is the trade that Dave took, and I'm going to share that with you guys. And let's look at this in the terms of our retracement concept. Now, why isn't my chart looking the same as this? It's up here. I want to see what it is that I've got wrong, because I'd like to draw it on my chart. Okay, here is the little base. And, okay, down here, that's right, okay. Okay, another reason is I didn't go quite far enough. Okay. This is actually a long play, all right, that Dave took. I'm gonna use it on my, I got these charts drawn here. But he made a comment in his that I was really quite impressed with. Okay, there's our support. And you guys can all see that. Dave took this thing long, here, all right, as you guys can see, this is the actual bar, and I'll show his actual chart. This is where he got in long, and you see this little pause bar? I love this little pause bar, and Jose loves this little pause bar. This is the baby. This is the little failure. And what it is this is a kind of a changing of the guard. We break the low of that topping tail, and then there's no follow through to this little PS. And it's not technically a PSS, because Prestine says you got to have 3 bars up to get a PSS. But this changing of the guard back to negative fails, and then this is where Dave took his entry. And I think, guys, this is a very smart, very good entry. Okay? That's a high odds, decent. This is a little retest that he's looking for and waiting for. That's what we want. This is great. And he took it back up to right up into this resistance. Okay? Anything, okay, Dave, don't help me here. Anything wrong with this trade, guys? Anything right with this trade? I want you guys to help me with this. What do you see that you like? And then, guys, and Dave, don't take this personal because we're all going to trade a little bit different. But there's a concept in here that you shared with me that I want to see if these guys get. Because I'm going to share it with you because it is absolutely wonderful, and it's the retracement concepts that really we want to talk about. We're talking about today. Okay, guys, this is the three of you got to come up with an answer.
When it broke support there, I guess my bias turned short.
Okay.
Even though it was a breakdown failure, and because I was watching the market very closely at that point.
I know you were. We're going to go to your trade next, Paul.
So that at that point, I said the trend now is in question on the 5 minute because that support, the pivot just directly to the left of the highest high was now violated.
Okay.
Now I don't like longs as well. I would have wanted to see some other kind of balance.
Okay. That's fair. And there's nothing wrong with that. All right, Carl?
One second.
Any ideas? Any comments?
Beautiful. I mean, broke it, you got tick divergence there. This short bar didn't follow through, which should. Small stop, perfect. I mean,
I would. Yeah.
yeah,
I like
I
it.
was gonna get out on a 2-minute trail the way he did, I guess. I mean, over there, this congestion can get through it in a weak market. That's what I was gonna do, most probably. I mean, I wasn't watching it, but I mean, that's it.
Okay. Facts? Any comments?
But this is too late in the day, right? This is like 3:30 Eastern.
Yeah, this is late in the day. Yeah, this is a half hour before close.
Okay.
Facts, are you with us or are you sound asleep? Did I put you to sleep? Okay, you got to slide up to your speakers. I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we're good.
Okay, sorry about that. I had the speaker. Actually, no, I see the breakdown, the stabilizing bar, and I like it. And
Okay.
if he took it off at the top, perfect.
It is perfect. Now, there's one thing I want to throw into this thing that I want you to just kind of think about and write some notes on your charts that we're working with here, whether you capture this one or you capture your own. This break, actually, guys, isn't really a break of support. Now, let me explain that. Yes, we physically break support, but we don't hold that support. The support actually worked. This is a breakdown failure on support. Now, Paul, your thought that we are breaking the support is accurate. Okay, but there's another element of this that makes this, I think, more important. Okay, and if I'm not considering anything else, this breakdown failure is tradable long to me. Okay, because it occurred at support, and in fact, even though we violated support, it isn't a true violation of support in that it didn't hold.
Okay, makes sense.
Support actually held, and so this little breakdown is ideal for a long trade. Now, there's one more concept to this. Dave, will you explain to me why you were holding you made a comment in your chart with regards to this retracement. Will you tell us what it was?
Oh, you mean why I sold where I did?
Well, that's only part of it. Dave, he made this concept, or this and maybe it wasn't on this chart. Maybe it was on the other one. The comment that you made was because this was a 100% retracement.
Right.
You did not expect it to go back to the high.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Yeah.
anticipation was not back to the high. Okay? That's an important, and this is the one thing that, as we look at these retracement concepts, and this is what we've been working on today, in a variety of different setups, this 100% retracement, and it was a nice 45-degree angle down. Okay? That's good, consistent, tradable environment there. I like that angle a lot. This retracement came all the way to support and then popped back up. Because it came this low, you have to anticipate it is very unlikely we're going to go back to the high.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you stop and think about what he just did, this is different than saying I'm buying I'm taking a long at support, thinking that we're going to go higher still.
Okay.
Now, this is a real paradigm change, because what we're teaching, or what I'm telling you, is we're going to buy at support and we're going to monitor at resistance, and hopefully we take out resistance. This is a situation where our hopes to take out resistance should have come down dramatically because of the length and the depth of this retracement. Now, doesn't mean we can't, but it means that we have to be more cautious, and our expectations may want to come down a little bit on the trade. So that's a real important concept, is retracements and how deep they go. Had they held up much higher, then I would have anticipated that we would in fact take out this high, or at least go back to an equal high. Now, here's the other half of this trade that I think is absolutely perfect as well. Okay, Dave took this thing long. Let me move over a little bit. Okay, you can see where Dave took this thing long. Well, guess what? We flip over to a 1. I got to tell you, Paul, you know what I reported back. Paul took this thing short, and both of these trades are perfectly legitimate, good trades. All right. Now, this is Paul's short entry right here. And he had what he wanted because we had resistance.
Right.
We had a double top into resistance with a tick divergence, already having at least tested major support. And Dave was actually thinking at the time that that was a fraction of major support. Regardless whether it was or it wasn't, this read was actually perfect. So this is a situation where both of these trades are legitimately decent trades. There's nothing wrong with being in either of those trades, long or short. Now, we don't get situations where we're going to be trading both sides of these quite like this. And it takes a guy a long time to be able to flip his mind and take a long trade and a short trade back to back like this. I'm not good at it yet. Occasionally I can find a trade I can flip like this, but I don't do it very often. Literally, I don't. So, if now you guys see both pictures in this trade.
Yep.
Okay, and you see how both of them worked out well, and both of them were legitimate. They were correct. Your Dave's read of the support, the breakdown failure, the retest back into resistance was a good trade up, and Paul's read on this is a retracement into resistance and a changing trend. I'm going to short this, and away you go. Both of those are good. Incidentally, Paul got more out of the trade than Dave did. But you don't really know that. Dave only entered this thing, Paul only entered this thing after he had his retest, had his tick divergence. He let that thing give him a retest. And this is the one thing I like seeing you guys waiting for now, is these little pause bars, these little retest bars. And if you've noticed, and I hope you have, that your I'm hoping you guys are seeing an improvement in your trading already,
I have for sure.
and you're seeing some things start to click, and I'm hoping you're feeling a little more confident in the trades that you're entering. Is that a yes? Somebody.
Absolutely.
Good. Good. I'd feel bad if we get to the end of our session and you guys think, well, that was a waste of time.
Actually, Neil, to be honest, I have some mixed emotions when I'm trading now, but I actually look at that as a good thing because I'm challenging, I think, some of my beliefs that were not that profitable before. So I think it's understandable how I feel. It's a good thing.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Yes, but ultimately, the test is, and Dave, if you continue to do these kinds of trades, your confidence and your batting average and everything's going to be going up.
Yep.
It will, and it'll prove out in your trading history. But this is and I throw this whole little trade setup in there because the key to this was the retracement. Both Dave's anticipation on what to get out of this trade and how close to cut this trade, and Paul's anticipation upon where this trade is ultimately going. So, guys, here's the concept, and this is what again, it is not 100% perfect because nothing is with trading, or computers would do this. Thank goodness they're not doing it very well yet in terms of longer term trades. Yeah, the 2 or 3 tick trades, they're killing it. They're making a lot of money doing it. But the trades like this that last for minutes, computers still are not doing. Thank goodness. But point is that if I can help you guys to get a pre-built bias as to what to expect under most circumstances, and then let the bars guide your thinking once you are in the trade, that's the secret. Is we have principles that we trade off of, failures, and then right, guys. When we get down to another session, we're going to go into some oil, some corn, some euro, some other trades where we're going to be doing some different concepts. But for E-minis, and that's what we're going to focus on most of the time here, is that we have these basic concepts of failures that gives us the highest odds. It doesn't mean we can't take other trades. But if we wait for the failures and the retests, they give us the vast advantage on the trade and lower our stop outs and our failures tremendously. So having the right frame of mind gives us the proper basis from which to think, and then we just read bars. The bar reading is relatively easy for all of us because we can tell when we get a nasty bar or when things aren't following through or when problems occur. But if we're expecting to go through this big chunk of resistance and we're going to sit on this thing and say, well, I'm just going to hold it, man, my stop is way down here, then our thinking is actually wrong. Now, if we didn't have near the retracement and we could hold up in really up in this level and not come down into this lower area of support, then my thinking is this is still a bullish base, and yeah, then I think I can get through that, and I'm willing to hold a little bit longer. And this is the difference between knowing when you got to cut your stops a little shorter and knowing when you can allow this thing to flop around on you a little bit and give you a little bit more room for profits. And this is one thing that traders just don't get. It takes a long time to get this concept and to be able to put all these pieces of the pie together. So I hope you make good notes. And guys, we will cover this as often and these concepts as repeatedly as often as you guys need until you feel like you're pretty comfortable and they start showing up in your day-to-day trading. Okay. Any questions? Because I don't want anybody walking away scratching their heads.
Can we go look at that oil trade yesterday?
Yeah. In fact, okay, so everybody's good to leave this?
Yeah, I'm here.
Alrighty. Let's go look at an oil trade. Right. Guys, I don't know if we're ready to go here. This is actually the wrong contract. Here's the right contract. Alright, yesterday, and I'm going to have a couple of charts to get this one on. All right. I don't know if I'm ready to take you guys into this oil trade yet. In fact, let me do this, guys, just 1 second, because I don't want to start this because I don't have time to go through the whole oil trade concept. But Carl,
Yes,
this is a 5 minute of oil.
yes.
Do you want to use this chart and outline your trade, or do you want a 2 minute?
Actually 2 and 1 and 5, just to show them what you told me once, the 10K here that it hit on volume.
Okay. All right. Here's the 5, so you can get the volume.
Okay, 5, just the one, just show the 15 right here on the 15 we're at support when it hit also. If
Okay,
you see it 15,
hang on,
look
let
at the
me-
15.
Let me go back and get that picture. Okay. This is our 15.
Yes. Yeah, I was looking 24, but this works also. Yeah, perfect.
So
Yeah,
this
but
is in fact, if I move this down where it belongs.
are you using market hours? Because I usually use 9 until 14.
Yeah, I should be
the
on this
pit
one,
opens at
and
9,
it's not
right?
even the right market hours. This
Yeah.
is market hours on the E-minis and not the oil.
Yes.
And I'll go get it.
I have an oil market hours too, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go get, and there they are.
Yeah, perfect, right? Yeah.
There they are. That's your 15. So guys, remember what this looks like, because this happens in oil too much. And while we're here, we're just gonna dive into this one. So there's our 15, our longer term. Now, let's go look at the 2, and I'm gonna keep the 5 over here. And this is actually gonna be tomorrow. Let's go over here yesterday. So we got to come over here. There we go. There's the 2. And I'll go grab you a 1. Come on, E-signal.
E-signal's a bit slow, right?
Oh, the last few weeks it's been
Yes.
killing me.
I thought it was my computers, but it's not. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, that's the one.
There we go. There we go. Okay, let me pull this down and kind of get it so we can see it on the 1. All right, and then you can have it on the 2. And here's our 5 over here. Now, okay, Carl, you've got the controls, so you can show us this.
Yeah, and as for further help, can I do it? No.
Let me do one more thing. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I'm going to get back to you.
Okay.
Oops. I got that in the wrong place. There we go. There you go. Your controls.
But apart from support, and we don't need them here because it's perfectly clear, but we also have a midpoint here and something here, like a few of those pivot lines that I use just for enhancements. When I see them,
Okay.
we don't need them here though. Okay, so once we were closing on 15 support, which I think it's pretty important here, and the 10K on 5 hit, which you told me about, and it's very nice. And this extension bar here, and a huge, basically it's a climactic move down on 5.
Correct.
Right. So I got very excited. And to be honest with you, first, yeah, I knew it would turn around, but of course, that's why I'm here. I entered on this double bottom on the one first, and it didn't go, it didn't take me out, didn't go. Here I scratched it, and I'm thinking maybe I'm wrong. But this little bar here, this is from the mentorship. This inside bar after a long move down like this, you try to break down. This basically is a breakdown. Actually, it's a BBF, breakdown bar failure. This bar inside breakdown bar, inside bar, break of this bar is basically a good trade. I mean, a bit slightly aggressive, but it's in the mentorship. I don't know, forgot which page. I took it here again because I scratched it here for like about 5 ticks. And my first goal, I was thinking, is gonna be the midpoint. I'm still going with those things. Here we have a little bit I wasn't considering this one for now because I knew it would go through it.
Correct.
Minor resistance here and midpoint. I took my 2 contracts and I left just one. This was a pretty good money bar. This was an entry for me too, but I was already in.
Yes.
I moved my stop under the money bar. If this money bar was broken, I don't want to be in. Plus, I was already in the money, so I didn't care anyway. And I let my one contract go because with this void that we had, and on a 5-minute trail, I thought I would make like good money. And if you look at it, the 5-minute trail took you all the way up to the high of the day. And this is what I did. I'm sorry.
I took your 5-minute away. Let me go move this over.
Look at it. 5-minute trail was a perfect thing here. Never got violated. Yeah. But only on one contract I let it go, but it was still a good trade, like I never had.
But you got 90 ticks, right?
Yes, on the one contract, and before that on the 2 contracts I had like a few, like I forgot how much, like from here to here I took my 2 contracts here, so that I can, I can relax because I was shaking already,
Yeah, but this was $1,000 trade for you.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's a great.
On the one contract though, I wish I took like 10 contracts, but I can't afford it.
Well, guys, actually, Carl, what you've described here is ideal, and I know maybe all of you haven't heard some of these rules. What I found with oil, and I'm only going to share part of this with you because of our time today, but no kidding, guys. With oil, when we get a $10,000 contract trade on a 5-minute chart, 8 to 10,000, 12,000. You get that kind of volume, start looking for reversal bars. And you just wait for your bar, be it a little double bottom like his first entry. That one could have worked easily as well. That breakdown that he ended up taking long is just a gift. Because your volume comes way off, you're at the perfect 15-minute support. And guys, this thing, a pivot from 50 or 60, it doesn't matter. That's a pivot low. And oil tends to hold those pivots much better than the E-minis do. And we're actually going to, and I worry about getting into too much of this detail because this is a completely different strategy than we're doing with E-minis, period. I don't do this quite the same way with the E-minis, but with the oil, all I'm telling you is if you guys kind of like to watch it and paper trade this for a while, don't get into new real money, but paper trade this for a while and you can watch this 1-minute chart. When you get that kind of volume on your 5, and I actually have just an alarm that goes off. I'm not even looking at it, and when I get an alarm that goes off that says, Neil, go pay attention to oil, it just triggered an event. That's the volume deal. I'm going to go over and look at it. And then you just watch for breakdown failures. You watch for these little money bars as he described, or you watch for a 5-minute retest, whatever it is that you like, guys. When this baby gets done doing its little deal, and you get your little entry, it's so infrequent that it will come back and break that if you get the right entry. And I like his little inside bar down here. I like that money bar entry. I like this one over here. So, guys, these with oil at least, and particularly this contract will give you, and the great part about these climatic moves down, you look at this 2, you look at the 5, there's no void. There's no resistance. There's a complete void until you get back up into this stuff. So it's not uncommon at all for this thing to retrace 50 to 100 points after it makes this climatic bottom. usually figure at least 50-point retracement off the bottom, and then I start looking and getting tight on covering it and doing whatnot. But I sit here and watch this 5-minute right here trigger. And I was saying, guys, we need to be taking oil. This is stupid to let this oil thing go. And I just sat there and watched it go, and I thought, it's going. I know it's going to go, and I'm not trading it. I'm thinking, are you stupid? So I didn't take the trade, but we had this other room that I'm in, this little Skype room that I'm in. Why we sit and talked about this trade as it developed, and I didn't take it. And that's the way it is, because my mind just wasn't in it yesterday. I just came thinking I'm not going to trade much, and I don't really care, and I just wasn't in the game. But this is so, guys. It happens with the euro as well. The euro does something similar to this, and I would just say, kind of keep these, particularly with oil. This is the only trade I'll share with you today. I'll share some others with you down the road that really work well on this, but this is the Climatics buy setup that works so well on oil, and you can make some. Again, they're pretty darn good trades when you get into them. But remember, you got to have it as support. You got to have the volume, and then just wait for a failure or a shock bar type entry on the one or the two to get yourself in. And don't be afraid if your first one doesn't work to camp on it and wait for another shot, because you will get another shot on a climatic bottom to get long. Once it breaks out, it's a little tough to get into, but as long as it's retesting that low, that's the ideal time on the 1, 2, or the 5 to get in long on that thing on the retest.
But this morning was also a very good trade on oil, on open.
You say it was or was not?
It was. The short was very good. Like this short was, I think it was. It opened exactly at resistance of 15 and 60 at 9 o'clock. And it was a double top on 2 minutes, right there. This is, if you look at it, this, no, I didn't take the double top. I took this, like, not shark bar, but do I have the controls? I took this one
You
here.
do.
I took this one here.
Excellent.
It opened
It's a
here,
good
but
shot.
no, but this double top here, it's a 15-minute major resistance. Look at it.
Okay.
And 60-minute also. It's a resistance. So, and the other thing, commodities, they tend to close the gap. And then this is totally, I mean, you have the support here. Look at this bar. I shorted it
It's
right
gorgeous.
away. Gorgeous. Not to mention this here, breakout failure on the 1 and the 2, if you look at it. Perfect. Just, I didn't even look, I mean, I started laughing here, screaming in the room, my girlfriend came to. No,
Did you
but
guys
it
see
was
this, guys?
yeah, it was Christmas come early, look at it. I mean, it's
It
small.
really is.
Yeah. And here you have, I got out right here, about here, it was like the gap close for the day, so I got a little scared, so I got out early. I honestly didn't trail it, I just got out and gap close and that's it. But, good trade all in all.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent trade. But see, guys, this is the and if we use this as an example, this happens really, guys, more often than we think. And when they happen up here, these things are so predictable. And that is this shock bar that occurs here is so nice, so nice. I like these shock bars forming up here in this top of this right shoulder. I don't even care if we haven't taken out this yet. This is enough to get things going lower. It really is. So I like them up here. If a shock bar forms down halfway into support or down near support, guys, I'm not taking shock bars that form halfway or more through the move. So I'm looking for them right up here in the top, and those are the ones that I want to take. Once we break support, Carl, like you say, this is Christmas. That's nothing more. Back up into resistance. We broke support nicely. Back up into resistance, and then you roll over. This is just, that's Christmas. It really is. It's a gorgeous play.
Yep, was very small risk. I mean,
Very.
yeah.
Yep. Yep. These little things, again, a little breakout failure there, little shock bar. Those are our keys. Those are our triggers. And when we can I see them in real time and identify them, guys, life is just cool when you train yourself and you can see them. So.
When you're stocking that, would you put your entry right below that green bar that top arrow is pointing at? Instead
I would.
of waiting red bar to
Yeah.
finish? Yeah.
I typically trade on a 1 and a 2. If I'm looking for an entry, let's go see what the 1 looks like. But I'm looking for. Let me go see. This is at 6 on 21. I got to keep going. Okay. Here we go. Oh gosh, I'm not even in the right time frame. There we go. There's what we're looking at now. So, I don't know that I would have. I guess I'd have to just see how I felt at the time if I was in the right frame of mind. This little bar is certainly a good bar, and this is the first one. And whether you take it on the 1 or the 2, typically it may be the 2 for me. This one on the 1 makes sense. This one absolutely on the 1 makes sense. To me, it does. I like this lower high because we did test our support, and this little failure up here really suggests that this baby's going to go lower. But this one is just out of the park. You get a break of support like that, then you get a little retracement back into the resistance like this, a little breakout failure on the 1. Guys, just back up the truck and take a bunch of contracts because they just, again, you got such a short stop and they rarely fail because you've already established a trend change. So you're not fighting. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's a major advantage of having up the 1 minute charts all the time too, because that's a completely different. It's a different picture. It makes you a lot better entry if you're watching the 1 minute chart versus the 2.
Correct. The only caution I have is, guys, is you need to be trading with the trend, and if the 1 minute will actually get you whipped around a lot and get you stopped out a lot if you're fighting the trend, and you don't want to. If you're counter trend trading, you can only do a 1 minute entry on a climatic type situation. Head and shoulders, no. On double tops, no. But climatic, yes. I think it makes perfect sense in those situations. Of course, you guys work it through, but I got to tell you, just be real careful. Let the trend change before you play a 1 minute chart, and then your entry is going to work better. For any of the entries, I think that's great. But don't take a 1 minute entry against the trend unless it's climatic, for example, or a really good double top of some kind. If you got a good failure, then it's okay. But this 1 minute chart tends to eat up most traders. That's the only caution I give you. But in this case, guys, you had everything.
Yep.
Great trade, great eye, Carl.
But
Excellent trade.
I don't know about you guys, and actually I want to see you, Neil, how you look at them. But I'm thinking, like when people say I'm looking at the 5 minute chart or I'm looking at the 2 minute chart, I think you should look at the 3 time frames. Like I look at 2, 1, and 5 at the same time, kind of. I mean, it takes like time to develop this, but you have to see all 3 at the same time. I think it's not the best thing for me, at least, to concentrate on just one time frame and just look at it all the time. At the same time, it gives you so many more opportunities. When you think what is what and how the bars move. It's just, I don't know. That's what I think.
No, I agree. I do the same thing. At times when I know I'm getting into areas of trading, I'll pop up my 100 ticks. I never look at them during the day until I know I'm close to an entry, and then I'll sometimes pull up my 100 ticks and look at my 100 ticks. And there's a 100 tick right there on the TF right now, the little black one. So I'm with you. And then I keep my 1s, my 2s, my 5s up, and my 15s all the time, because I'm looking at those same things, Carl. I think that's a great observation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we covered some retracement concepts today, and the dollar's just screaming, guys. What's going on with the euro? What's going on with the oil? Yeah, I was going to say, the oil ought to be dropping. I bet the euro's just diving like a rock here, isn't it? Yes, the euro is. Because the dollar's just ripping. Interesting. Okay, I think I really don't have any more that I wanted to cover today.
Okay.
Any last questions or anything we want to cover before we get off?
This Thursday we're not meeting, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay, all right. And,
Yeah, it'll be a week.
all right, perfect. Okay, thank you.
And I think we're doing a close on Tuesday. Is that right? Next Tuesday?
Yeah, I've written down a lunch hour.
Okay.
All right, next Tuesday lunch. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Let me go look and see what I wrote down. I was just going from memory. Yep, I got a 10. I got a 10 o'clock. And in fact, I've got a 10 o'clock again, or a noon on both Tuesday and Thursday next week, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that good for everybody?
Okay.
No?
Good. Maybe we can find a trade while we're there.
We should have traded that euro today.
We should have.
I was watching it, and cause I had taken a euro trade earlier today, and I was trying to see if there was a way for me to get in, but obviously not. But it should be good.
Well, guys, here it is. This again. There's a big area of support, and there's our double top, right up underneath this base.
Okay.
There's a nice little reversal bar right here. I mean, it's easy to see now that that it all kind of broke down, but that was not a good event to have that thing break like that and get reversed. A lot of little places to get on there if you look at it. But your double top was kind of pretty up underneath. Again, guys, these are the things we're looking for: downtrend, double tops, breakout failures. They just have pretty darn high odds. Nice eye. Okay, guys, listen. I want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I hope you have great holidays. However you celebrate them, I hope they're wonderful. That you don't get too anxious about trading too much through these cold and these slow days, and that when you decide to trade, you make 90 ticks per trade, like Carl did this morning or yesterday.
Yes. Merry Christmas, everybody.
All righty.
Bye bye.
Hey,
Take
send
care.
me, guys, get me your charts. I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
seeing a couple of Jose, Carl. You guys didn't send me your charts, and now you're gonna have to stay in from recess.
Yeah, I will tonight. All right. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Bye.
Okay, take care.
Right.